Okay. What's your name?
My name is Trevor Sturgis. I'm the general manager for the Rouxpour Restaurant and Katie.
Okay, so what is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job for the past year has been to manage an inherently public business during a coronavirus pandemic and navigating all of the restrictions and guidelines while still maintaining a welcoming atmosphere for all of our guests and our employees and ensuring the broadest happiness across the most amount of people possible in a very difficult time.
Very fun. How long have you been in the restaurant business or the management business?
I have been in management for almost 5 years. I've been in the restaurant industry for 9 years.
Okay. What is your favorite part of your job?
I would say the favorite part of my job is that I'm not stuck in a cubicle somewhere. I get a lot of, people-to-people interaction. It's not mundane. There's always something new. And every day there's a new challenge, there's a new focus that's not repetitive. Keeps it fresh.
What do you, how do you advertise your company?
So we are active on social media. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We participate in competitions throughout the year, which, that's a good way to advertise through those competitions because they also spread our name and brand elsewhere. But also, the biggest way to advertise is to ensure repeat customers, and those customers, word of mouth, to their friends and family.
And going along with that, what's unique about this restaurant? What makes it better for other people to want to come here rather than a different restaurant?
So I've always said this restaurant occupies a very small niche in the restaurant industry, right? You have a lot of fast casual dining, which is, fast food to the table at low costs, and then you have, steakhouses and very high-end restaurants. Our restaurant operates in between there. So we have, reasonable prices for things like bottles, wine, steak, high-end seafood. And we provide the same, experience and wait staff competency as high-end restaurants, but you're not, forking out an arm and a leg just to go out to eat.
Yeah.
If you want to come in and spend a lot of money on a really nice date night or just bring the family for a casual Wednesday night, we have a pretty eclectic menu and we can sort of satisfy that need.
Okay. So kind of going more towards your management job and more specific to that, what are your goals as a manager for any company or this company specifically?
So there's the number goals that you try to hit, right? Your food costs, your liquor costs, those sort of statistical numbers. But as a broader goal, as someone running a restaurant, like almost any other business, you're just trying to maximize happiness, right? Mm-hmm. That's happiness of your staff, keeping them motivated to work, make sure they still want to be here. And then obviously, the paying customers and guests, maximizing their happiness, to make sure they come back and, spend more money.
So what do you look for your employees to reach those goals?
What do I look for in them?
Yeah, and your employees.
Like when I'm hiring the people?
Yes.
So the biggest, we're in the restaurant industry, so everything is, your ability to speak to another adult, while making eye contact, legibly, having that confidence, that goes a long way because I could hire the smartest person in the world, but if they can't have a conversation with someone, then they can't be in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, for sure.
So interviewing someone, they got to be happy, bubbly, able to hold a conversation.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say your management style is, if you had to put a few words to it specifically?
Few words specifically. I would say that my management style, a lot like my parenting style, is I try to establish some pretty strict boundaries, but within those boundaries, it's a lot of fun, a lot of leniency, a lot of letting the employee kind of work in their own method, in their vein, how they feel comfortable, but still maintaining the goals of the restaurant. Yeah,
it's important to keep that balance between fun and work.
Yeah.
How would you what's your kind of go-to, or how do you handle conflict between, team members? Or even, team members and then also customers, maybe.
So there's an acronym that I was taught early on in management training which is LAST, L-A-S-T, which is listen, listen, answer, solve, thank. Which is pretty much, if there's ever an issue, the first thing you want to do is listen to what that person has to say. If there's a conflict between team members, when you get both sides of the story, you decide what's, a fair judgment or fair compromise, or in the terms of a guest, what's an appropriate fix to the solution. And then always just thank both sides, or if it's a customer giving you feedback, thank them for their feedback. If it's two employees who have an issue, thanking one of them for coming to you with a problem so you can solve it. But yeah.
Okay. What do you believe for you is like the best manager to employee ratio, or how would you want to despise that if that was your own likings?
So it's about a 10-to-1, right? So for every, maybe even fewer than that, maybe like a 6 or 7-to-1. So every 6 or 7 staff members you have on schedule, at least one manager.
Okay. Do you believe the customer is always right?
No.
Okay.
No, most of the time, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
but there's sometimes, and that's sort of the beauty of working in a private company sometimes, that the general manager of this location has a lot of leeway on how to handle situations. I would say 99% of the time the customer is always right. However, if they're being rude or just totally incomprehensible, or they are, being belligerent, then I would say they're not in the right.
And that's interesting, because if I were to ask my mom that question, she'd probably say the same thing. But myself, I'd probably be like, I usually know what I'm talking about, but I know, but like you have to treat them like they're right.
That's always been the line, but the fact is, there's a lot of jerks in the world.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
Customers not always right.
Okay, what do you believe your greatest weakness and your greatest strengths are?
I would say that my greatest, it's the same thing. I tend to have an OCD personality, so a lot of hands-on, I want to put my finger on every part of the restaurant, which is, I would say that's a strength because it means I'm involved in every aspect of the restaurant, but at the same time, I do have a tendency to micromanage, which is always something that I combat in my own mind, but yeah.
Who do you consider like our top competitor?
Specific company?
Yeah, sure. Of the Rouxpour.
Well, the cheesy answer would be that we have no competition because we're the best, right? No, but I would say there's a couple other restaurants. If you're going a little bit, obviously our neighbors in La Centera, we're always competing for the business that as people come into this shopping center, competing for those eyes and their attention. Specific brand outside of us, I'd say this Federal American Grill, Perry's, we compete with them a lot because we serve,
similar
nice
items.
wine, steaks, and seafood, yeah.
Okay, and then the last question, how do you measure success?
Outside of just dollar amounts and profitability, going back to, maximizing happiness amongst your staff and guests. At the end of the day, you're relatively stress-free, and that you feel like you've accomplished your goal and you didn't leave anything unsettled or undone. Let's say day to day, just making sure that you completed everything you need to do for the day, and year over year, just if you're growing, then you're doing something right.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
Thanks, Trev.